and welcome to the January Read Aloud. So this month, you all, and when I say you, I mean everyone in the Cozy Escape Book Club, selected Apple Cider Slang. Now, this is a Christmas book, and I'm guessing it's because out of all the books that we were choosing, it happened to be in the middle of December, so probably everyone was feeling very Christmassy. But that's okay. It's January, and it looks really good. It's the first in a cider shop mystery, and it's by Julie Ann Lindsay. So super excited because Julie is so nice. She actually approved for us to do the chapter readings, but she also volunteered to do a giveaway for a lucky winner, and we will choose that winner during the month-end discussion on January 28th, which is the 29th, the last Wednesday of the month, and that's at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, and it will be here on this channel. So I will leave a link so you can RSVP below. We also have a reading schedule. We have a Facebook group. We have so many fun things. If you like talking about cozy mysteries, join Courtney and I for the Cozy Escape Book Club, because we read a new book every month. And you get to pick it because you get to vote on it. So let's go ahead. Let's jump into this book. As you can see, I have my handy little kitty cat behind me. I'm so excited. He's so little. He's about 2.5 pounds now. His name is Lucky, and he's an Abyssinian. I don't know if you can see, I have the blurry camera, so he's a little blurry, but he's going to be hanging out with us while we read. Hi everyone, I'm Lisa, and welcome to my Cozy Escape AuthorTube channel, where we talk about all things related to cozy mystery writing. So if this sounds like you or something you might be interested in, make sure to hit the subscribe button below. I post new videos every Monday, and I do extra videos like today, so make sure to hit the bell so you get notifications when new videos go live. All right, this is chapter 1. Make sure to head over to Courtney's channel for chapter 2. So Apple Cider Slang, and it's funny, there's 2 cats on here, and the whole time before I got Lucky, I was wondering, like, will this be a book about nice cats, or will this be a book about snarky cats, which the other Lisa in the Cozy Escape Book Club totally loves. So we'll see which kind of cats are in here. All right, here we go. Chapter 1. Welcome to Smith Orchard, I said, smiling brightly at a group of holiday shoppers stepping off a shuttle bus. I'm Winona. I can't read this. It's like really hard now that I got this new mic, which I love. In case you're wondering, this was like, I think it was $900 for the mic, $150 for the shock mount, $20 for the stand. I had an XLR. Anyways, a lot of stuff going on. But because I need it right in front of my mouth, I need to, there. Let's do that. Where was I? Welcome to Smith Orchard, I said, smiling brightly at a group of holiday shoppers stepping off a shuttle bus. I'm Winona Mae Montgomery, and you can call me Winnie. I live here on the farm with my granny, who you all know as Granny Smith. Oh, Granny Smith apples. The small crowd chuckled as they arranged themselves before me. Also, I am baking apple things. I actually I like apple crisp and apple turnovers. I guess I really just like sugar and then some apple stuff, but we're trying to make apple cheesecake and apple cider cookies. So that is a separate video because it was so long. I did another uncut, unedited video with myself, Camila, and Kirsten. So if you like watching those baking videos, you'll have that. Lucky walked out of the shot. All right. I guess he does not want to listen to me read this book. All right. Not coincidentally, I continued, we have a fantastic harvest of apples this year, including Granny Smith. I led the group from the parking area through the beautiful late November morning, and beneath our arching orchard gates, lined in fresh green pine boughs and twinkle lights, the broad vinyl banner stretching overhead announced first annual Christmas at the orchard. I turned to walk backward a few beats, enjoying their faces as they took it all in. Autumn in the Blue Ridge Mountains was breathtaking. Views from my family orchard were no exception. Granny's little strip of land was darn close to paradise this time of year, nestled neatly between 2 richly colored mountains in a valley so pretty the angels might have painted it themselves. That's a little cheesy. All right. Granny and Grampy Smith bought this land 47 years ago with the money from their wedding, I explained, turning back to stay on schedule. This was all just a fledgling orchard then, but they saw opportunity where the Sully had seen failure, and Granny and Grampy set down roots. Thanks to their vision, love, and dedication, Smith Orchard is now 25 acres of the finest fruits in northern West Virginia. In addition to apples, we harvest blackberries, blueberries, peaches, and cherries. I stopped at the large white tent with the strange strategic cross-section of Smith Orchard products showcased beneath. This, I said dramatically, is the fruit stand. In keeping with my new theme, I generously sprayed canned snow over every crate, barrel, and display in sight. And despite the unseasonably warm temperatures, I thought the place looked rather festive. Granny parked a wheelbarrow of leftover gourds and pumpkins from last week's harvest festival, a festival that normally signified the end of our business season, beside the register, and headed our way. She hadn't quite bought the idea that her orchard could be a popular Black Friday alternative for those who didn't want to shop retail or fight the crowds, but she'd agreed to give it a try. She'd even worn her nice red wool coat with matching hat and muck boots in case I was right. Here she is now, I told our guests, the amazing woman who turns fresh, homegrown fruits into all the delicious holiday products you see here. My Granny Smith. I did a soft clap, then shook the jingle bell bracelet on my wrist. Christmas at the Orchard was a sales ploy created very recently by me. It was a last-ditch effort to make some extra cash before the orchard went dormant for the winter, along with Granny's income. She was undeniably the heart of the place, but Grampy had been the business-minded one. It was no secret that sales had slumped after we lost him unexpectedly about 3 years back. But it wasn't until a few weeks ago when Granny came to me with a stack of unpaid bills and a nearly depleted savings account that I'd realized the orchard was in serious financial trouble. We had to turn things around fast, and drumming out Christmas sales seemed like a solid start. Lucky for us, I'd been taking business classes at the local community college every Saturday since high school graduation, and if I kept it up, I'd have my bachelor's degree before my next birthday. Earning a 4-year degree in just shy of a decade didn't seem like much to brag about, but taking things slow had made it possible for me to pay cash as I went. So unlike a lot of folks, I knew I'd be debt-free when I finished next spring, and that was something I was proud of. I even had a little nest egg to show for my patients and some big ideas on how to help Granny make money from her harvest all year long, assuming I could get the local banker on my side. Luckily, I had another week of Thanksgiving break from classes to get things in motion. I don't remember getting a week for Thanksgiving, but it's been like 20 years, so who knows? Come on in, Granny said, waving the guests closer and enchanting them with her smile. Her heart-shaped face and thick brown bangs made her look deceptively younger. Her narrow, youthful figure didn't hurt. She'd been mistaken for my mother more times than I could count over the years, and it was probably the most accurate mistake ever made. I mean, if this lady can push around wheelbarrows of like huge, like, I don't even know, there was like stuff, like even a wheelbarrow. I can barely push a wheelbarrow. Those are hard. Anyways, I'd gotten my dark hair and eyes from Granny, my wide cheekbones and pointy chin too. My go-getter attitude and big mouth came straight from Grampy. He taught me to speak up and state my mind because ladies didn't always get the respect they deserved in farm endeavors. I loved the empowerment in those lessons, sometimes a little too much and to Granny's chagrin. I stood back as Granny shook a few hands and smiled warmly, the only way she knew how. Thank you so much for joining us. I know the popular promotion for Black Friday is to crowd into a mall and fight your way to deals, but I think you'll go home feeling much more satisfied after spending a day in the fresh air and sunshine. And it couldn't be a more beautiful morning, she said. It seems as if these old hills have put on the dog just for you, showing off those brilliant colors and a grand West Virginia welcome. If that's not enough, Winnie and I have plans to spoil you too. She shot me a wink and a grin. We'll start with a proper hayride and farm tour and then move on to a fantastic sampler buffet around noon. So if you see anything you'd like to try while we're out exploring, chances are you'll get a little taste of it soon. The tour group's faces lit up at the mention of free food. First, Granny said, clasping her hands in front of her, where are you all from? A woman dressed like a stewardess lifted her lanyard and said the plastic badge on the end identified her as the tour guide for Ohio's senior trips. Cleveland, she said. It was our third tour of the morning and our second from Ohio. The first had arrived from Columbus with the sun, and the group in between had been from Pittsburgh. Did they say where this book is set? Smith Orchard, Autumn in Blue Ridge Mountains. I still don't know. I don't know where Blue Ridge Mountains is. Maybe it's because of my bad geography. We'll look that up later. All right. Where was I? Pittsburgh. Granny grinned. Well, we're sure glad to have you. She opened her arms and corralled the group toward her waiting tractor and flatbed wagon with safety rails. Let's start with a little ride around the property. We'll visit the buildings where we sort and wash apples the same way today that we did 40 years ago. You're going to love it. She herded the bulk of the senior trip people onto the wagon. When every hay bale seat was full, she locked the gate behind them. A few stragglers looked confused, stuck between the fruit stand and wagon. You're welcome to wait here, Granny said. Browse the selection, walk the grounds, or sample some cider, and I'll be back around in a bit to pick you up for the tour. Until then, Winnie will take good care of you. Granny climbed aboard the big green tractor and the stragglers headed in my direction. An elderly man in cargo pants and a fanny pack stopped to eyeball a festive display of cider dispensers near the register. I'd stenciled holly leaves and berries on a sign encouraging customers to help themselves to samples. He filled a tiny cup and swigged. That's good. Thank you. I'd heard the sentiment before and quite often, but it never stopped puffing my chest with pride. It's a personal recipe of mine. He nodded approvingly, then refilled the cup and pointed it at the piles of fresh-picked apples opposite of us. How much for a bushel? $15. I don't know how much is in a bushel. I know like a baker's dozen. I don't know. What is a bushel? Is that by weight? Is that by pounds? Weight and pounds are the same thing. Is it number of apples? Does anybody know? This is why I need live streams. All right. A bushel. The man turned back to the cider dispensers and sampled the next flavor while he considered his apple options. Do you have Gala? Yes, sir, I assured. We have 9 fantastic varieties, including Gravenstein, Gala, Honeycrisp, Cortland, Jonathan, Red, and Golden Delicious, Granny Smith, and Pink Lady. My favorite is Honeycrisp, I think. I don't know. I'm not really a big apple person. And in fact, I'm not even allowed to eat apples. Well, I can eat them if they're like cut, but I have a permanent retainer behind the top and the bottom. And that's how I broke my retainer the first time. So, what was I saying? The Honeycrisp are especially juicy this year. He cast his gaze around the fruit market, sunglasses hooked in the collar of his John Denver t-shirt. The words almost heaven were scripted above a backdrop of trees and a river. What do you put in your cider? This is exceptional. The first sample you tried has cinnamon sticks and a little nutmeg, simple, traditional. The one you have there is blended with cranberry juice and a dash of lemon. Fresher, crisp. He sipped. Delicious. Thank you. Do you sell your ciders by the gallon? He went back to sample from the third dispensers. Yes, sir, I told him, gaze locked on his as he lifted the cup to his lips once more. That flavor is something new I'm trying. It's best served warm with chai spices and a little milk. He handed me a pair of $20 bills and selected a basket of Galas. I'm going exploring. Mind if I pick these up when I come back? No, sir, I said. I'll take a gallon of all 3 ciders, too. I beamed. Excellent. The chai blend won't come with milk. You'll add that to taste once you warm it to serve. Perfect. He finished the last dregs of his sample before tossing the little cup into the wastebasket. I made his change and wrote up a receipt. I'll transfer your apples into something better suited for traveling when you return, and I'll pull the ciders from the cooler while you're gone. Much obliged, he tucked the change and receipt into one of his many pockets and headed across the grass for a look around. I climbed out of my stool on the edge of the tent and popped my collar against a chilly breeze nipping at my neck. The kitty's back. And we'll see if he destroys my cute little display. All right. I climbed onto my stool at the edge of the tent and popped my collar. Oh, I read that. Hopefully the man I just waited on had a jacket in the tour bus. He'd regret the decision to wear nothing but a t-shirt once the deceptively warm day gave way to a seasonably cold night and the sunset before dinner. Beside me, don't worry, those are fake, in case you're wondering if he's going to die from eating those. They're just plastic. Beside me, the stack of papers I'd left weighted with a rock began to protest the wind. I gathered the pages into my hand, unwilling to let them get away. The business proposal had taken me 2 weeks to write, and convincing Mr. Sherman, the banker, to come out for a visit had taken even longer. It had been my lifelong dream to open a cider shop. How long is this chapter? Sometimes I get the really long... Oh, no, this isn't bad. It's only 16 pages. Sometimes I get the really long chapters, and then Courtney, who has a beautiful reading voice, gets the super short ones, but this won't be too bad. We are on page 8 of 16, so we're halfway there. But I needed a small business loan to get started. I'd painstakingly prepared the proposal and included a few sketches illustrating my vision for the space. I'd been doodling and daydreaming about my cider shop for years, especially during my breaks at the Sip and Sup, where I waitress most nights. With a little luck, I wouldn't be serving for someone else much longer because I'd soon be running the show. I organized the pages and tapped them against my thigh. A cider shop at Smith Orchard had limitless potential. We could bring in money year-round with this kind of creative addition. The space could be rented for events like weddings and baby showers or used to host local bands for concerts. It would be amazing. I just hope I could convince Mr. Sherman. I'd strategically scheduled multiple bus tours to be on the grounds during his visit today. The volume of shoppers should give him the impression business was booming, and therefore granting me a small business loan would be a low-risk, basically brilliant financial move on his part. Unfortunately, in a town as small as Blossom Valley, he probably already knew about the orchard's money problems, and convincing him to pour more money into the place would be tougher than it should. Winona went May, a familiar voice crackled the silence and pulled my shoulders to my ears. Granny's nemesis, Nadine Cooper, stomped into view, hips swinging with each step of her hot pink platform shoes. Her black pedal pushers and white fitted blouse were straight and out of the 1960s, but the bulge between the blouse buttons was new. "Where's your granny?" she asked as she came to a stop. "I need to talk to her right now." I settled my dark glasses over my eyes and lowered the papers onto my lap. "Hello, Mrs. Cooper," I said, staring upward toward her grouchy face in bright morning sun. "It's nice to see you." Yeah. She scanned the area, chomping fluorescent green gum at 50 miles an hour and looking no nonsense and locking no nonsense hands over her hips. "Is she in the house?" "No, ma'am. She just left with a wagon load of guests," I said, thankful for the truth. The last thing I needed was for Mrs. Cooper to be hanging around causing a stink when Mr. Sherman arrived in an hour. "They're taking a tractor tour, but they'll be back in a bit. Would you like some cider while you wait?" "I can't wait," she said, crossing her arms and further testing the integrity of her blouse buttons. Had she overstuffed her bra? "I'll be back. You tell her we need to talk ASAP and this is important. I'm mad as a wet hen and she needs to hear about it." "Yes, ma'am," I said. "I'll send her your way as soon as she can get there." Granny didn't have a cell phone, so she couldn't call until she went back to the house, and she probably wouldn't do that until the gates were locked for the night. That didn't matter because Nadine was the closest neighbor, and she and Granny just marched back and forth to fight instead of wasting time with the telephone. According to my calculations, they've been at it for 43 years. Granny said Nadine bought the adjacent parcel out from under her and Grampy when they hoped to expand. Nadine had responded with something like, "So what?" and the battle was on. Mrs. Cooper waggled her back across the lawn and into the trees separating our land from hers. Whatever new grievance had her all worked up would have to wait a few hours. Meanwhile, I went back to practicing my speech for the banker. I thought she was supposed to be entertaining the guests while Granny was waiting, but okay. Mr. Sherman was late, but he showed up and I counted that was my first victory. I hobbled along to greet him on 3-inch pumps, which might as well have been stilled since the tallest heels I'd worn this side of prom night was on my tennis shoes. I'd made a quick trip to my place in the remodeled building across the field from Granny's house between bus arrivals. I can't believe anyone wears stilettos on a farm. Like, your stilettos would sink right into the mud and then be covered in mud. I mean, right? There's just me. Maybe I'm just too heavy, and that's why my stilettos go down and nobody else's go down into the mud. I don't know. All right. So I traded my jeans and knockoff Nike for a dress without pockets and jeans that hurt my feet. Or shoes that hurt my feet. Now, unlike the man I'd met earlier, I had 0 places to keep anything, and I was forced to stack my paperwork, drawings, and cell phone onto a clipboard that my shaking hands were sure to drop. "Hello, Mr. Sherman." I met the banker with a hearty handshake and a smile. I feel like she could have prepared better for this. Like, why carry all that stuff? Why not have, I don't know, a tote bag maybe? All right. "Miss Montgomery," he said, seeming a bit confused by my outfit, despite the fact that he was in a 3-piece suit. "Thank you so much for coming." I led him through the gates and stopped strategically near the crowded fruit market. "I won't keep you long. As you can see, business has really picked up, and Granny needs my help." Mr. Sherman gave the visitors a long look. I don't know. What are you chewing on? Are you just chewing on air? You're chewing on a plastic stem. You're just weird. All right. We're back. Where was I? "Hello, Mr. Sherman. Thank you so much for coming. I won't keep you long." Okay. Mr. Sherman gave the visitors a long look. I see. Mr. Sherman was tall and fancy with his bank job, shiny shoes, and a little satin pocket square. He had dark hair with shocks of gray above the ears and cheeks so smooth my legs were ashamed of themselves. Cheeks, like, how would she know his cheeks are smooth unless she touched them? I thought we could take a walk. Oh, maybe she likes him. Maybe this is a romancing. "I thought we could take a walk along the tree line to get a feel for the property, then go right to the old mail pouch barn where I want to open the shop. What do you say?" He lifted a palm, looking less than interested and indicating I should lead the way. Oh my gosh. Again, how can you walk in stilettos across all of that, property? But as you know, folks come from far and wide to buy my cider and Granny's apples. We sell a substantial amount of pies and preserves as well. I said, my heels stabbing holes into the ground behind me. See, I told you. But only when the weather allows. I guess that helps, right? I think they do that to help fertilize the ground. So maybe it's like her strategic plan to be more efficient. Our numbers are strong from late spring to early fall, but from November until March, the income is typically almost nil. We rarely have warm days or traffic like we do today, so late into November, we want to know and you want to know the worst part? I paused briefly for dramatic effect. We have the capability to produce the same organic, high-quality cider, jams, jellies, and pastries all year long. We just need a proper place to sell them. Mr. Sherman slowed to a stop beside me. "You want a storefront?" I want more than a storefront. His gaze slid away from mine and latched onto something over my head. Something wrong, I asked, pivoting in search of whatever had caught his attention, and hating the fact my pitch had been disrupted before I'd really gotten going. He cocked his head and stared at the leaves on one tree. What's wrong with this one? Nothing. I stepped closer to confirm the obvious truth, except once I did, I wasn't so sure. The leaves of the tree in question were slightly discolored and brittle looking on the ends, but it wasn't the result of a normal seasonal shift, so I changed my answer. I'm not sure. I moved around the trunk, examined the leaves on the other branches, and noticing a frightening pattern. Mr. Sherman followed my lead and scrutinizing adjacent trees. I see it here too, he said. Are they sick? No, I don't think so. Will this impact the fruit's quality, the annual yield? Mr. Sherman, I said, cutting him off and feeling heat rise to my cheeks. I walk these trees every day, and this is the first I'm seeing this. I don't know what it is, but I will find out. Mr. Sherman pulled a small pad of paper from his inside jacket pocket and clicked a pen to life and made a note. Suddenly, every word I'd planned to say went right out of my head. Familiar feelings of dread and panic tightened my throat and constricted my lungs. I needed this loan, needed his approval. Things couldn't go like this. Or Smith Orchard would be no more. Focus, Winnie, I demanded internally. Tighten up before you blow it and Granny loses everything. My ears rang as I forced the panic away. I hugged the clipboard and its burden to my chest, hoping to still my pounding heart. A year-round cider shop, I croaked through a suddenly dry mouth and parched throat, wouldn't be a great addition, not just to the orchard, but to the community. It would be so much more than a storefront, though. We could certainly have a display area where Smith Orchard's fruit, produce, and prepackaged treats could be served. Mr. Sherman gave me a small, sad smile. You might not be aware, Miss Montgomery, but this orchard is in serious financial trouble, and there are clearly bigger problems here than you realize. He shot a pointed look at the strange yellowed leaves. You're wrong, I bristled, hating the condensation in his tone. I'd put up with shades of disdain all my life, for being young, for being a woman, for attending a community college instead of some big university, for being from Blossom Valley, West Virginia, a small farming community instead of someplace people had heard of. I know all about our financial troubles, Mr. Sherman, I said. That's why I asked you to come here, and I know more than most people about how this orchard operates. I know the obstacles in front of me, and I know all about the labor-intensive, knuckle-busting, back-breaking hours given to the harvest and production of our products. I know the blood, sweat, and tears it takes to maintain a property like this one, because my granny and I have been doing it on our own for 3 years. I blinked through the stinging reminder that Grampy was gone. When we had left this orchard and each other, I wasn't letting either go without a fight. And I also know the payoff, I said, the fruits of our labor, if you will. I mean, this is just one guy, this grandpa guy, and I would think he's kind of old, unless he's like Superman, where he's like single-handedly doing tons of things around the farm because he has superpowers. But I don't think that's this kind of book. So, and also, I would think the leaves would be yellow anyway in December, right? Like, even if you're in a warm area and she was expecting snow because she had painted snow on things, the leaves kind of go yellow and start falling off, right? Unless there's something special about apple trees where they never go yellow. But I don't think that's true. But I will look that up after. Okay, Mr. Sherman listened quietly to my rant without making a move to leave. I rushed on before I lost his attention or my nerve again. You might not know, Mr. Sherman, I said, playing his words back to him and enjoying how it felt, but Smith Orchard provides things that the bulk of this community needs at prices they can afford. As a banker, you might be aware half of our town struggles to make ends meet sometimes. Did you know that these folks count on Granny's fruits and jams for their kids' lunches and for their dinner tables because she lets those families set the price? I squared my shoulders and lifted my chin. With this cider shop, we could do so much more. We could make more and we could give more. Mr. Sherman nodded. All right, he said softly. May I see the proposed business location? I puffed a breath of relief. Thank you. I hurried past him, returning to my sales pitch as we made our way toward the mail pouch barn at the corner of Granny's property. Did you know that our mail pouch barn is a registered trademark? I asked. People have come here all my life for the opportunity to take pictures in it. I've met photographers from Anchorage to LA and as far away as Sweden. These barns are more than iconic. They're a much sought after piece of American culture and history. There are government grants and loans available for their maintenance and upkeep. Grampy always took advantage, and the barn stands as strong today as the day it was built. Mr. Sherman was silent behind me. I checked to be sure he hadn't turned tail and run. The Blotch brothers were the first to paint this barn, I said, beaming with pride as we approached the apple sorter and press building. The Blotch brothers were from Wheeling, and they made popular flavored chewing tobacco but couldn't afford to advertise. So they, like me, used their heads and made a plan. They utilized what they had, which was time and elbow grease, to get what they wanted, which was exposure. They offered to paint barns for free as long as they could put their ad on one side. Simple, effective, legendary, I said, which makes our barn the perfect venue for my cider shop. I held up a finger as we reached the building. The apple press was normally a tourist favorite, but someone had closed the door. I doubted anyone would be forward enough to walk inside if I didn't prop it back up. I climbed the 3 wooden steps and curled my hand around the knob. Just 1 second, I said. I'm not sure why this door is closed, but I don't want the next group coming by to think it's off limits. Sure enough, a group of onlookers saw me at the building and headed our way. I swung the door open and stepped inside. Go on in, I said cheerfully. Have yourselves a look around. This is where the magic happens. They picked up their pace across the short strip of ground. Mr. Sherman made a strangled noise, his skin suddenly as pale as the moon. Mr. Sherman? He lifted the end of his tie to cover his lips. I followed his horrified gaze into the building. A pair of black pedal pushers and 2 hot pink platform sandals came into view. What is with everyone and the high heels in this farmland? Let's see. Came into view hanging over the side of the metal tray table beneath the apple press. Slowly, my brain processed the rest of Mrs. Cooper's body. Her unseeing eyes stared through me as blood slid over her cheek from an angry wound at the top of her head. A shrill scream that rattled the building was mine. All right, I love it when there is a murder right away in chapter 1. I don't know, I'm just weird like that. I like that the author establishes right away that this is a murder mystery, and we're all going to solve it together. So make sure to head over to Courtney's channel for chapter 2. And if you are not a member of the Cozy Escape Book Club, why not? It is free. I will leave a link to join below. And most importantly, make sure to register for our RSVP for the month-end book club discussion, where we will be talking about apple cider slang. Now, the nice part too about the book club is I do 2 things. One, I will do a character like notes, although in December I totally flaked and only did part of it. And then for the discussion, as soon as you show up, Courtney and I both do a quick recap of the whole book in case you didn't have time to read it, because we know you are busy, you got things to do, people to see, places to go. So make sure to still show up, and everybody who shows up will be eligible to win Julie's amazing signed book from another Cozy Mystery series. The second book in the series is not out yet. I think she's working on it right now as we speak. So you will get the first book in a new Cozy Mystery series. All right, I hope everyone's having a fabulous day. And also make sure to watch the baking video that goes along with this, where Kirsten and Camila and I will be testing out some apple recipes. All right, have a great day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.